Hello, welcome to the Doctor Who vlog of the Rateau Brothers.
I'm George.
This is Billy. And this is... what's the name of this episode?
The Witch is Familiar.
The Witch is Familiar.
So,
episode begins with Clara being hung by string by her feet by the Master.
yeah, while the pastor starts sharpening a stick and telling her a story about Capaldi. So how do we feel about this scene?
Well, they're not dead.
Yeah, obviously they're not dead. Which, this is a nice scene that kind of explains why she didn't die at the end of Series 8. Let me just say this. I love Selena Gomez as the Master. She is
perfect.
Just so evil. It just oozes off of her. It's just so good.
Yeah, she really is just nailing the Master.
Like, every scene she's in, she steals the show. Every scene. I mean, and Clara plays off of her extremely well in this episode as they're paired through the majority of it.
Yeah, those two are just... I'm the Doctor's best friend, but I'm his best friend companion.
Oh, he's just so, like, so interesting. I mean, and the jokes, like, all the shit the Master says, she's so funny. She's just great. She's just fantastic. So anyway, in this scene, she's talking to Clara about one of the Doctor's adventures, and she explains to Clara that basically the reason why the Doctor always wins, regardless of the situation he's in, is because he expects he's going to win.
Yep.
He knows he's going to win.
Might have to cheat, but he finds a way.
Exactly.
But in any case, through this explanation about how the Doctor usually escapes, also confirms how the Master escaped death from last season.
Yeah, using her vortex manipulator as a cheap and nasty time travel to power her thingamabobber and make her do the thing.
Technobabble at its finest.
Basically, she used her vortex manipulator to technobabble her out of the situation she was in. It makes perfect sense, and there's really no need to go deep into it.
Point is, they escaped, they're still alive. I'm the Doctor. Deal with it.
That was awesome. So let's fast forward a bit.
The Doctor is naturally pissed seeing that the Master and Clara are supposedly dead.
Yes. And he decides he's going to take Davros out of his goddamn wheelchair and wheel up to the Dalek Supreme in Davros's chair.
Saying probably one of the funniest lines. Let's face it, you all had this nightmare at one point.
No, that was priceless. And then he has the cup of tea in his hand, and he's like, the real question is, why do I have this cup of tea? The answer? I'm the Doctor. Deal with it. Now, that really does kind of, like, a lot of Doctor Who fans, well, science fiction fans, I shouldn't say Doctor Who fans, they kind of talk a lot about the inconsistencies in Doctor Who and the sort of borderline magic way he solves his problems. Here's the thing. It's all true.
Yeah.
And I don't care. This isn't Star Trek. This isn't Star Wars. This is science fiction fantasy. This isn't even really science fiction at all.
We're talking about a guy who can change his face whenever he dies.
The whole point behind Doctor Who being science fiction is it stretches the fiction part to the extreme. But that's what it would be like if we encountered a being like this. We wouldn't understand him. So, you know, we can probably talk forever about this, but moving on. Let's talk about the Missy and Clara some more. Like, they're in the sewers.
Yep, they go down to generally the Dalek sewers, where there isn't necessarily normal waste down there, except wasted Daleks.
Yeah, and they're immortal, which I thought was an interesting concept, so they kind of just keep decomposing forever. That was creepy. I also love the fact that at one point, they're about to enter the sewers, and the Master's like,
How deep do you think that is?
and then just kicks her down.
Oh, 20 feet.
I also love the fact that, like, Clara is at the point where she really wants to kill the Master.
But she can't because she needs her.
Yeah.
So, double-edged sword. go with the person who can keep you alive for a little while, or just kill her before she kills you.
I liked that dilemma a lot, and it also showed the heart of Clara. Clara's not a murderer, but the Master is, and the scene where Clara gets put into the Dalek, that was pretty funny. Like, it was not. I also thought it was interesting because that's how we met Clara. When you
really think about it, that's how Jenna Louise Coleman was originally introduced.
So it's sort of a play on that. A very subtle one, too, which I kind of like. There's a lot of subtlety in this episode, in this second part. And what's interesting is there's not a lot of action.
No, there really isn't.
It's really character. Like, when you think about it, Davros and the Doctor, now moving on to them, they really don't do very much but talk the entire episode.
They're very interesting talks. I mean, the Doctor basically tells Davros that I found a way to save Gallifrey. And Davros is in complete shock of this, and supposedly is happy for the Doctor.
That's an interesting scene, because, spoiler alert, Davros is actually sort of faking it because he wants the Doctor's regenerations to make his Daleks basically invincible.
Or stronger.
And to prolong his own existence. But that scene was very interesting to me.
Is Davros being genuine, or...?
I think he kind of was a little bit, to be honest. I think he was genuinely happy for him. I mean, the whole point of this episode, I think, was to humanize him in a way that we could still see him as the villain. The idea is, what if you met Hitler in real life and he wasn't the person you thought he was? At least not completely.
Well, this episode kind of takes that similar element.
Yeah.
The Doctor is literally making the person who made the space Nazis of the universe.
Yeah, and I really enjoy the dynamic they have. I also love how Davros tempts him, giving him the ability to take away every Dalek. Well, that's the first way he tries to trick him, is he tries to trick Davros, he tries to trick the Doctor into giving him his regenerations by having him hack into the Dalek power source and destroy it.
It's like, wait a minute.
And then that doesn't work, so that's why he tries the other way, which is to get him to be sympathetic towards Davros, because he's dying, and help him survive just long enough to see one more sunrise.
Once again, Davros explained that compassion is the Doctor's biggest weakness.
And it's true. He's absolutely right about that. But going back to, just go back real quick to that scene where the Doctor literally has the heartbeat of every Dalek, and he could just squish it, and he doesn't do it, even though he really wants to. That is a callback all the way to the first series with the Ninth Doctor.
Yeah, it's true.
That was the 12th Doctor's moment, where he reaffirms he is the Doctor. And it's funny, because I don't think he realized that when he did it. Because the ending of that scene, he's like, he says the equivalent of, you know, I'm not the Doctor. But I came here because you asked me. Not because I felt guilty. Everybody feels guilty about something.
Oh, yeah.
But because you asked me to, I wanted to help you. And for that moment, he pretended he is the Doctor. And that, to me, is the Doctor.
He'll pretty much save anybody if he can.
I really think that the talk between Davros and the Doctor, this is one of the Capaldi's best moments in acting in character. This is the best performance Capaldi's ever given us as the Doctor yet.
I'd say so.
Not that he hasn't given us great performances.
Oh, yeah.
But this is by far his best, because you could see the conflict and the turmoil. I also am starting to notice I'm seeing a bit of Tom Baker in him as well, in some of the way he performs the character.
Yeah, I could see that.
I see shades of it in just the way he accentuates certain words, but he's still very much unique compared to the other Doctors when it comes to his dark side.
They really let his hair go, so to speak, in this one.
Oh yeah, his hair is like, he's much more raggedy. And I think that that's an interesting approach, considering how sort of old and proper he looked. He looked very For a guy that didn't have, like, bow ties or anything, or scarves or silly things like that, he seemed very stuck up as the Doctor.
Yeah, at first.
In appearance, at least. Now he's kind of letting his hair down, so to speak.
Yeah, and that could also... He does seem generally more relaxed and chilled this time around, the Doctor.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's move on to the ending of the episode.
So basically, Davros tricks the Doctor into giving some of his regeneration energy to the Daleks. But the Doctor already anticipated that was going to happen.
And he let it happen.
So, basically, what Davros and the Daleks didn't know is that the dead Daleks were also rising from the sewers.
Yeah, they're regenerating as well. And they make up the foundation of the city. So the city's going to fall apart. I love how Capaldi's like, 1, you're a moron. 2, sewers. And you're like, oh shit. It was great. But that does raise an interesting question for future episodes. How much of the Doctor's regenerations did he just use up to destroy the Daleks?
Well, again, if the classic era holds true, he's going to turn into the Valyard at some point.
That would be very interesting. But, and to be honest, I think the struggle in the 12th Doctor to fight his inner dark side, they've all struggled against that. All of them, from 9 to 12. But 12 seems to struggle against that even more. So, this could be maybe a subtle hint that that's what's going to happen. That now the Doctor's running out of regenerations again, and he's starting to turn into something else, or part of him will. We'll see. I mean, it could go either way.
It could.
But it does raise an interesting question, nevertheless. The ending's also good because, like, Master tries to trick the Doctor into killing Clara, who's stuck in the Dalek. And Clara can't speak properly because she's speaking through the Dalek translator.
Which the Dalek translator is, how can I say, kind of limited.
Yeah.
Kill, murder, you are an enemy.
But one interesting word, mercy. And we've seen Daleks say that word before.
But they don't mean it.
Yeah, in fact, whenever they do say it, it's always because it's a bluff of some kind. Like against River, for example.
But she was accessing data. It's like, systems show that you will show mercy. But he doesn't mean like I'm saying mercy to you.
He's asking for mercy for himself. But the word shouldn't be a Dalek word. So Capaldi realizes Clara's in there and gets her out. Basically telling the Master, I'm going to fucking murder you if you don't leave this room right now. The Master, we don't know what happens to her. I'm assuming she escapes. Davros escapes probably as well before the city goes down. It's a given. You know they survived. Maybe they'll do something with it because...
Still early in the season.
Yeah. Maybe and there was a talk of a prophecy about the merging of Time Lords and Daleks, but...
I was like, whoa.
We don't know if that was just like a name drop, or if that meant anything, or if that was just an idea. So we'll have to see later on in the series if that actually goes anywhere or not. It was very vague, so it may not.
That's true.
But we should keep an eye on it.
Or it could be something that we won't see until next series.
Yeah, that's true too. So we get to the end, and the Doctor realizes why the Daleks have a word for mercy, and he goes saves Davros. And while the Doctor definitely creates the influence...
At the end of the day, he's the Doctor.
Yeah.
He's going to save that little boy, even if that little boy would be Hitler.
Yeah, I mean, he left him behind, and he showed up, and he destroyed the hand mines, and admittedly, you could make the argument that the Doctor inadvertently created the Daleks in that moment. You could also argue that this was a fixed point in time, and Davros was going to survive no matter what. And that all the Doctor did was just change events around it. So it depends on how you view the episode. If you view it the first way, I completely understand why fans might get pissed off, because the Doctor just created the Daleks. And you think he'd be smarter than that.
But there's no guarantee that he wouldn't have created them, even if he didn't rescue
But
Davros.
the whole point is, despite how evil Davros is and how dark the Daleks are, the Doctor was still able, in young, innocent Davros, who's not guilty of anything, to plant that seed of mercy inside him, which is the theme of the entire story. Mercy, compassion. And it resonates throughout both episodes, and it shows that the difference between the Doctor and the Daleks is mercy. It is the Doctor's greatest strength, it is also his greatest weakness. It is what created the Daleks, it is what ultimately will save us from them.
Every time.
So, how do we feel about this episode?
I feel like it's a solid two-parter.
I mean, there are a few plot holes, I think, here or there, but they're easily hand-waved away. As an episode, as a two-parter, I thought it was a really compelling story.
I agree.
Which is really all that matters to me. If there are inconsistencies in the plot or in the general lore, which, to be fair, I really didn't see many that were all that important, then I'm okay with that as long as it tells a good story and it doesn't destroy it doesn't take the lore apart. This story had the potential to break the lore of Davros, completely destroy it. If
both
anything,
to get rid of him in the past and the future.
Well, but I'm also speaking not just in an in-universe, but a writing perspective.
Oh yeah,
you could totally ruin the character, but they added to him. I like the idea of them humanizing Davros. And he doesn't change.
No, he doesn't.
He's still Davros. Because, to be honest, I've always thought of Davros as pretty one-note. Interesting, but very one-note. He's generic mad scientist. Sort of like the Master. But what they've done with both the Master and the Davros this series is sort of given us some perspective on both of them. Like, for example, the Master sees herself as a friend of the Doctor.
Ha! I don't see it.
But that insanity is interesting to listen to. That the Master is more than just a madman or madwoman. And the same thing is said for Davros. He's more than that. He's not just a psychotic killer. He has reasons for doing what he's doing. They're completely wrong and insane, but he has reasons. And understanding him is to understand the Daleks and where they came from. Which is really interesting, I think.
Oh, yeah.
So,
I feel like it's a really solid episode and a good start to the season.
Absolutely.
And we'll see how it goes.
I was very concerned when it started, but now that I've seen the whole thing, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a lot. I thought it was probably one of the best two-parters the show's had in a long time.
Well, considering that the last two seasons really had little to no two-parters in them.
Yeah, what was the last two-parter?
The Series 8 finale.
Alright, well, I think we're going to wrap this video up. I'm going to try to leave it as unedited as possible so you can get our genuine thoughts and reactions. If you enjoyed this video, like, subscribe, please leave a comment down below.
And we'll catch you next time.
See ya!